And when his days on this world are over, to a horse's heaven if such a place be. I know that he'll like the change, if it looks just like the range round my home.
It's 9 a.m. in the high deserts of the western United States. Mariana Tosca, Marlene Dodge, and Shirley Puga are sharing a typical Tuesday together. A non-stop 18-hour drive. This is standard. Scalding temperatures, also no surprise. But then, there is something different about today. The rescue was just about complete. This is a point often reached, though never guaranteed, because a simple rescue does not exist when gambling with the income of the horse slaughter industry. Today, 6 horses will most likely be freed from slaughter. But one undeniable truth still plagued the minds of these women. What about the other horses in this very same feedlot? And more, what of the thousands of American horses suffering the same fate across our nation? What makes them different from any other animal raised to provide food? And in a world torn apart by war, political divides, and economic depression, why does a horse's life matter? In 1867, scientist O.C. Marsh, excavating rock structures in the American South, discovered a complete skeleton of what came to be known as the first horse. They called it Eohippus, meaning dawn horse. For millions of years, horses roamed free, extending their presence to most of the continents on the planet. However, nowhere on Earth has the horse been more bound up with the progress and identity of a people than in the United States. When our forefathers declared independence from England over 200 years ago, it was the horse that carried Paul Revere on his legendary midnight ride, warning the Americans of the English troops' arrival. The horse enabled early explorers and settlers to colonize the nation. It was with the strength of the horse that these early settlers plowed our fields and carried our products to market. The horse provided transportation, carrying firefighters to burning houses, police to crime scenes, and doctors to the sick. It was the horse that made the dream of westward movement a reality and bravely explored the unknown. The horse carried our soldiers into battle, often losing their own lives for the betterment of our own. Horses provided sport, recreation, and companionship to Americans. And in 1971, it was the horse that Congress declared a living symbol of American heritage and culture. Our history as a people is written on the back of the horse. Without the horse, we would not be where we are today. And where are we today? Most Americans are not aware of the mounting issues facing our American horses, and that with each passing day, the fate of our once invaluable companions grows more grim. These great equines, noble creatures once keystones to our nation's survival, are today considered a burden, or even worse, livestock. Cases of abuse and neglect have become commonplace. Overbreeding is leading to a rise in their slaughter for human consumption. And even our wild horses are finding themselves in an ever-shrinking habitat. The current collapse of the global economy is only making the desperate situation facing American horses worse. we set out on a mission to explore the issues surrounding American equines and to see how this once irreplaceable national icon has become expendable. Here is what we found.
In 2008, the National Bureau of Economics Research declared that we have been in a recession since 2007.
We're seeing one of the worst economies probably in any of our lifetimes right now. So it makes sense that there are going to be more horses that don't have a home that people can't afford.
When you don't make as much money, you can't feed yourself. Well, if you can't feed yourself, you're not going to be able to feed your animals. So what's the first thing to go? Dump the animals.
It is not only humans who suffer during times of economic crisis. One of the first things to go are pets. With the cost of feed and fuel rising, one of the most expensive animals to maintain is the horse.
Do you pay your electric bill and your groceries, or do you pay board for a horse? Because it's not just the board, it's the shoes, the feet, the vaccinations, the getting their teeth floated, the upkeep.
You know, it's rough. I'm a college student and live in Chino Hills, and he's out here, and I couldn't do it anymore.
Between the two of us, we just could not afford to pay the board anymore, and our fear was what's going to happen to Rio.
These fears are justified. Horse slaughter is a billion-dollar industry, once accounting for the fourth largest agricultural export in our nation. And although not currently legal in most of the United States, over 100,000 American horses are being shipped every year to Canada and Mexico to be slaughtered for the foreign meat markets.
T. Boone Pickens summed it up the best by saying it's America's dirty little secret. I think if you were to poll the nation, I don't believe that most people understand the complex issue of horse slaughter. Many Americans have no idea, because we don't slaughter horses in the United States for food, that they were actually shipping them overseas.
In the 8 years between 1997 and 2005, the American horse industry has grown from $25.3 billion to $39 billion, an increase of 55%. It is an industry that could solve this problem if it desired, but the only desire thus far has been to turn a profit. We are fast approaching a count of 5 million American horses that have been brutally slaughtered for foreign consumption. And what's more, 92% of the horses going to slaughter are in good health or excellent condition.
What happens all too often is that killer buyers who frequent most of the horse auctions in the United States will come and bid on horses, which they can resell profitably to slaughter plants outside the United States.
There happen to be 20 head of horses there. Most likely 15 of them are going to go to slaughter through your livestock auctions.
If the fact that horses are being shipped to slaughter does not garner attention, the manner in which these horses are slaughtered often does. Killer buyers will buy horses and load them into cramped double-decker trucks where they endure thousands of miles without food and water in conditions where injury and even death often occur. Once at the slaughterhouses, it is required that the horses be rendered unconscious prior to slaughter. The procedure is gruesome and inhumane. The captive bolt gun, which slams a metal rod into the horse's brain, will often improperly stun the horses, leaving them conscious when hoisted by their rear leg to have their throats cut. Likewise, in an even more gruesome traditional practice, horses in Mexico are stabbed multiple times in the neck with a double-edged puntilla knife to sever their spinal cords. This procedure, known as hibernación, does not render the horse unconscious. It is not intended to. Rather, it is only intended to paralyze the horse so that it can be easily handled, hoisted, and bled out, often while still conscious. From that point, they are packaged and shipped for food.
Different meat products, basically you have any kind of cut you can think of for a cow. If it's they got demand for steaks and steaks, please. Hamburger, they got their hamburger.
So the people who are sending their horses to auction or giving them away on places like Craigslist don't necessarily know that those horses are going to end up in the slaughter pipeline.
We don't raise horses in America for human consumption. So it comes as no surprise that most veterinarians don't think twice when using antibiotics, hormones, or performance-enhancing drugs to maintain a horse's health, none of which have been tested or approved by the Food and Drug Administration for use in or on horses intended for consumption.
Nobody really knows how long the drugs that American horses are given remain in their system and remain a health hazard to humans who would consume their flesh. Things like butazolate and phenylbutazone, which is a pain reliever, are given to horses routinely.
And of course, we wouldn't run into that with cattle because cows don't really get non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, so, which is what bute is.
In the European Union, they say that any animal that has ever been treated with this drug should never enter the food chain. So there's no quarantine period that would guarantee that horses met that requirement.
Humans consuming bute is very harmful for their kidneys, very, very harmful for the kidneys. So I think that's something that really does need to be looked at.
We fill horses full of drugs that say clearly on the package, not intended for animals that are used for human consumption. So we clearly would not eat these animals. Is that something that we feel comfortable feeding to other nations?
Horses have been eaten overseas by a diverse range of cultures for centuries. Consumed as delicacies, horse meat can fetch market prices of up to $30 a pound. Our search, however, was to examine how exactly the American horse, our horse, is finding its way into those foreign markets as a highly priced commodity sold for meat. What we discovered is that in the past 9 years, the equine population in the United States has exploded from 6.9 million horses to 9.2 million, an increase of 33%. Meanwhile, the number of horse owners has only increased from 1.9 million to 2 million, a modest increase of only 5%.
In the American Quarter Horse Association, approximately 165,000 new registries a year are happening in the United States, and they're the largest breeding group.
The biggest problem is the fact that people are not controlling what they're breeding. And again, it's a circular argument, the idea that we have too many horses and so we have to send them to slaughter because we have too many horses. Well, the problem is we don't stop the breeding, we indiscriminately breed certain types of horses such as the quarter horse that doesn't have the market value where it had 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's just not there.
Currently, regulations on breeding do not exist. The American Quarter Horse Association, ranchers and breeders can breed as many horses as they'd like.
They will breed more horses than they know they're going to be able to use or find homes for in the hope of finding the racing champion or the show ring winner or the conformation model champion. And then those that don't make it, having a means of profitably disposing of those horses at slaughter.
The availability of horse slaughter as an always convenient option has allowed careless breeding practices in America to go unnoticed. But astonishingly enough, overbreeding and slaughter are not the only problems facing American horses today.
In this horse's situation, he's 6 or 7 years old, he's very young, he has no major health issues, it's just a neglect on the owner's part to feed the horse.
We are a culture filled with people that when we're tired of something, it's not usable, it doesn't bring something to us, money-wise, whatever, we dump it.
When he was a yearling, he was registered, and then as a 2-year-old, he raced on the track. So he has registration papers, he's a running quarter horse, so we're gonna do some research and figure out what his actual name is.
In Modesto, California, on a small lot with no food and minimal water, we found this innocent creature. Abandoned for 2 months, all he had to fill his stomach with were toxic plants that caused damage to his gums, liver, and brain. We drove him across town to a veterinary center where he would be nurtured, rehabilitated, and nourished back to health. This horse rose from the ashes of his terror and was aptly renamed Phoenix.
This is definitely one of the worst cases that I've seen. I've seen a lot of skinny horses, but I think that he is the skinniest one that I've seen. For a horse to be like this just because he didn't get food, it's not acceptable.
Are there benefits to the practice of horse slaughter? Those in support of it believe so. Proponents for horse slaughter argue that without it, there'll be a flood of abused, abandoned, and neglected horses just like Phoenix. However, all current research findings suggest that this is simply false. After California passed their Anti-Horse Slaughter Act in 1998, there was a curious finding. Along with a 34% drop in horse theft, there were no correlating increases in horse abuse or neglect. Likewise, equine cruelty investigators reported that horse abandonment and abuse cases actually dropped during the temporary closure of slaughter plants in the early 2000s. It is not simply an issue of dollars and cents. It is a question of values. The horse is a living symbol of American heritage, culture, and freedom. Surely it deserves better. Horses in this country are facing slaughter, abuse, abandonment, and neglect. And these are the horses with homes. What about that icon of the American imagination, the subject of song and cinema, the wild horse?
The horses have families too?
Why, yes, of course, Tommy, just the same as we do. And that's why I sort of feel as if it wasn't fair to drive them off like they are doing down there now.
Our whole United States was built on the same thing that they desire, freedom, a life of self-determination.
Today there are about the same number of wild horses as there were back in 1970, except now half of those horses are being held in long-term government holding facilities at great expense to the taxpayer.
In the 19th century, more than 2 million wild horses roamed the West. Today, there are less than 30,000. The Bureau of Land Management is dedicated to protecting our precious grasslands. However, while under its watch, we have lost 12.5 million acres of grazing, and wild herding regions have dropped 50%. Herds whose numbers once reached into the hundreds now are in the tens.
It's all a war of grass. Who gets the grass? Is the cattle going to get the grass, or these guys? The cattlemen want more of it, and these guys have to go in order for them to get it. It's that simple.
The number of acres that the BLM had to dedicate to the use of horses back in 1970 has been reduced by them to about half of what they had. So the territory the horses have available to them has been reduced significantly.
The BLM uses helicopters and other intimidating tactics to round up our wild horses and control their population. After the roundup, these wild horses are put on the standard horse adoption market. However, due to their lack of training and rogue nature, the majority of wild horses never get adopted. Once they are deemed unadoptable, they are sent to auction and eventually to slaughter. It made us wonder, is there anything else that can be taken away from the American horse?
Premarin and Prem-Pro are typically used for women as they go into menopause to replace those hormones for symptomatic relief, including hot flashes, depression, fatigue, low libido, but it's used to replace the estrogen and progesterone, although they're not the same. But as you look at the studies and throughout the years, Premarin and Prem-Pro have shown to cause breast cancer, cause heart disease, cause stroke and heart attack, while other hormone replacement therapies have not.
Premarin means pregnant mare's urine. And everybody always focused on the mares and how they were suffering and all that, or, you know. I said, let's take it and let's find out what is the residual effect of Premarin.
Last Chance for Animals conducted an investigation into the Premarin pharmaceutical industry. What they found was that approximately 40,000 mares per year were used to produce the hormone replacement drug Premarin. Harvested for their urine, the mares remain in stalls too small for them to turn around. attached to filthy, constraining urine collection devices. The horses are repeatedly impregnated within these confines and often have no protection from the cold concrete floor during the harsh Canadian winter. The amount of water given to these horses is restricted because water dilutes the urine, making it less profitable for the farmers. The horses' food supply is inadequate as well, and they rarely receive sufficient veterinary care. Most mares are never removed from the stalls and allowed to graze. Then, when they can no longer reproduce, they are sent to auction and eventually slaughter. When Last Chance for Animals investigation became public, the number of horses being used for Premarin decreased 50%. That was a victory, yes. But 20,000 horses still remain crippled in stalls on Premarin farms across Canada. And we cannot forget that 20,000 mares produce 20,000 foals. What happens to those baby horses?
It's usually 85, 90, 95% of these horses were all going to known killer buyers. The byproduct ends up as meat in Japan, Belgium, and France.
I don't think most doctors and patients know. They may hear of it, but I don't think they associate really how the drug is manufactured.
It's pregnant mare's urine. You just think the ick factor. I mean, you really want to consume urine?
Study after study after study has shown they are particularly dangerous, and it really should be malpractice to use Prempro.
The issues facing American horses are growing in severity with each day. However, out of such dire circumstances, there arise opportunities for people to make a difference, to become a voice for the voiceless, and to change the destiny of our equines. There are people and organizations all over this nation devoted to finding real solutions. People working exhausting hours at jobs whose only reward is often no more than a shared smile and peace of mind before bedtime. Horse rescue organizations and therapeutic centers exist to provide caring, enriching environments for horses that have been neglected, abused, abandoned, or are at risk of going to slaughter. These organizations understand the invaluable therapeutic gifts the horse has to offer and the life-changing impact the animal can have on human beings of all shapes, colors, and sizes. Here are their stories. Strides Therapeutic is a community-oriented center providing professional equine therapy and offering the opportunity for emotional and physical growth through horsemanship.
We have a rider who's quadriplegic, we have a rider who has multiple sclerosis, another one with muscular dystrophy. We get disabilities across the spectrum.
Meet Ellen. At the age of 19, a car crash sent Ellen flying 50 yards through her windshield, crushing her spinal cord and leaving her a quadriplegic.
I've been riding at Strides since 1984, January of '84. My daughter was born in 1983, and I came to Strides so that I could regain some balance. I'm a high quad, so I have no balance from the chest down, really. And having a newborn, I really needed to strengthen my core so that I could pick her up and really be the mom that I wanted to.
There's a huge change watching Ellen. When she first started, they didn't feel she was appropriate for therapeutic riding.
Nora was like, we can do this, we can do this. And I started out with literally 4 sidewalkers, just keeping me balanced on the horse.
She was so enthusiastic about doing this that we decided to give it a try. It took 4 people, 2 volunteers on each side, just to hold her on the horse.
Eventually we went down to 2 sidewalkers. I've ridden with 1 sidewalker, and now I can actually ride independently.
She can sit up independently. She can raise her arms up in the air and still balance herself. And she has been in horse shows and shown off what she can do.
It's incredible therapy that does so much more than anybody can ever imagine.
The Compton Junior Posse, a nonprofit organization based in Compton, California, is dedicated to encouraging inner city and underprivileged youth to become productive members of society. Founder and executive director Maisha Akbar has found that involving children and teens in their equestrian program has motivated the youngsters to achieve their goals.
When we first moved here, we rescued horses before we rescued kids. And the horses would come to us with the same problems that the kids did. They suffered emotional abuse, physical abuse. They were very hungry and needy.
It was Maisha's belief that working with horses would give the inner city youth the discipline and resolve to shed their tough kid exterior and realize there is a bigger world out there and that they are just the same as any other person finding his or her way in it. She has thus far been proven correct.
We've taught kids leadership skills, mentoring, academic and career counseling, using horses.
The Compton Junior Posse's approach to effecting change is affirmed by international studies that show connecting youth with animals teaches them responsibility and increases self-esteem.
It's really like living in a third world country. You know, the kids walk around and they wonder if they'll even live to see adulthood. You know, during the time that we've been here, we've seen over 40 kids die through gang violence.
Maisha and her dedicated volunteers give inner city youth an alternative to the influences of street life by providing a program focused on self-development, where participants are taught the value of education, hard work, career planning, and contributing to society in a meaningful way. With the help of 2008 Olympic gold medalist jumper Will Simpson, the Compton Junior Posse has competed successfully in equestrian shows and competitions across the state.
My definition of a horseman is someone that makes horses' lives better.
Will Simpson has been phenomenal. He's kind of been a pivotal point in our growth and the development.
There's maybe some walks of life where things change and maybe a horse isn't wanted anymore. But there's many places that people need that horse. With therapeutic riding programs, with the Compton Posse program that I help, there's many places where that horse can be put to good use.
So at our ranch, what we do is we intake from animal control facilities, neglect, abuse cases.
The Grace Foundation is an equine rescue and rehabilitation facility. Their purpose is to protect, care for, and heal both children with special emotional and/or physical needs, as well as abused and neglected animals. They believe that horses have a unique ability to help the community, and that includes providing horses for the local police department's mounted horse unit.
Our original 2 horses that we started the unit weren't in fact rescue horses, but we have since partnered with the Grace Foundation, and with the number of horses that come to this facility, we have a great opportunity to utilize some of these horses that have good conformation, that have the appropriate color, demeanor, and mindset to actually work with them as mounted police horses.
My name's Elizabeth Zarkos, and I am the president and founder of Hana Lee.
Hana Lee is an equine rescue center. They rescue horses who are slaughter-bound, neglected, or in need of a loving home. Often these horses are abused and untrained. Hana Lee is dedicated to helping rescue these horses and finding them a proper new home. You may remember Rio from earlier. He is a shining example of Hana Lee's hard work and dedication.
If we hadn't been able to take him, I know Lori and Lindsay would never have let him go to an unsafe place, but there are people who maybe don't have the resources to sustain looking for, another home, and they just walk away. And in that case, this animal could end up in an auction.
This is where he's supposed to be. It just kept coming back to this wonderful place here and these wonderful ladies, and I just knew that they would take care of him and bring him in and find the right home for him.
Strides Therapeutic, the Compton Junior Posse, the Grace Foundation, and Hana Lee are all doing their part to end the crisis facing the American horse. But as great as these organizations are, they cannot save all of America's troubled equines. Success for a rescue can be saving 25 horses a month. The reality is that roughly 2,000 horses meet the hands of a captive bolt gun operator or puntilla knife wielder every week. The time has come for us, the American public, to stand up and put a stop to these atrocities. The gifts the horse has the ability to give us can be absolutely remarkable. Just ask Dori Tamani and her dedicated staff.
It's about social skills and life skills and teaching
kids how to get along with each other and interact. You start from the foundation and then you build so that it makes their lives easier.
It's really, really amazing and it's touching, and in the beginning, you know, the kids don't want to open up.
The daily difficulties these kids face are often unimaginable. Hearts and Horses is here to help.
End up in jail or dead or something. So I think coming to this has really kept me up and away from all that.
It's just so extensive and it's so amazing. And I cry and I get really emotional and I get very, very attached to all the kids because it's just like a miracle what the animal does for the children here.
People actually do change. They say they don't, but they do. No matter who it is, you can still change.
Working with rescue horses, the students at Mountain View Kids Camp learn the responsibility of proper equine care and gain invaluable life skills.
These horses that come in, the rescue horses, they're the foundation for these children who maybe doesn't have a mother or a father, you know, someone there to guide them through.
The camp is an educational facility. It's not just about riding horses. The kids have 2 hours of classroom curriculum every day, as well as horse riding time.
These kids are our future, and the only way we're going to have a good future is if we take care of that future ourselves.
A big portion of our program is based on life skills. These kids are here to learn responsibility, not only to care for themselves, but for something else.
Having a horse is a big responsibility. You know, everything from hoof care all the way up to grooming this horse out. You know, I honestly and my wife don't feel that we've rescued these horses. I think these kids rescued these horses. And I think these rescue horses have rescued a lot of these kids.
Monty Roberts, known as the man who listens to horses, or the horse whisperer, is an award-winning trainer of championship horses and a best-selling author. Monty owns and operates Flag Is Up Farms, a 154-acre ranch where, utilizing rescue horses, he teaches his methods of training to local and international students.
In non-horse terms, wouldn't it be okay if a child went to kindergarten, first day in school, and the teacher grabbed him by the ears, slammed him into a chair, kicked him in the belly and said, "You're here in school and you're going to learn"? Well, that's what they do with horses a lot of times, you know. And how challenged would that child be to be normal for the rest of his life? That would affect him forever.
Once a horse has received his initial training and has been touched and halter broke and be able to have his feet picked up, he's in a far better position to be adopted out and continue his career.
Once it comes to finding people to adopt these horses, if they've been handled and if they are people-friendly, if they have a personality, if people are caught up by them when they come to see them, there's a 1,000% better chance that somebody will adopt them than if they go there and they're wild and running around and snorting and people unfriendly.
Monty takes in rescue horses in order to allow his students the opportunities to work with recalcitrant and untrusting animals. The result is a win-win situation where his students develop necessary training skills and the horses become a better fit for adoption.
Where we take in horses from rescue places, rescue farms and so forth, there's never a charge. We just don't charge them anything. It's synergistic. We need the horses for the students. The students really appreciate it, and oftentimes they rescue the horses themselves.
And from our point of view, we're getting a lot of horses in that are the best teachers for our students. Without those horses, our students can't learn to then go and put these principles into practice at home with their own horses or other people's horses if they're going on to become horse trainers.
Without rescue horse organizations and public support, none of this progress would be possible. With the pressures of a sagging economy, horse rescue and horse rescue collaboration is needed now more than ever. The advocates on the front lines cannot do it alone. Like any other business, horse rescue is dependent upon financial stability. But it truly would not experience success without the dedication of its volunteers. Volunteers like our friends Marlene, Mariana, and Shirley.
We just completed a 27-horse rescue for the month of July.
In June, we had 25. May, we had 26. And April, we had 24. Sometimes there's just simply not enough time. We'll pull horses off the lot, and literally a few hours later, truckloads will be dropped off there.
It's not that they're not wanted, it's that the people can't handle them. You know, you can't adopt them because they're not halter broke, gentle, safe, started, broke, whatever.
Marlene, also a firefighter and police officer, owns and operates Valley View Ranch, a rescue facility where she rehabilitates abused, slaughter-bound horses that her network rescues off the feedlots. This is a network that includes award-winning actor and social activist Mariana Tosca and Shirley Puga, a retired businesswoman who in the past 3 years has facilitated the rescue of over 800 horses. It is a shared passion of wanting to create a better world for both humans and animals that led these ladies into each other's lives and eventually into the desert on this day.
So I just landed and I picked up my rental car, and I'm going to be driving about an hour and a half out of here to meet with Marlene and Shirley.
The three women began this day at the feedlot. Our cameras were not allowed to follow. The footage we did capture shows one horse untrusting of its rescuers as a result of repeated abuse and years of neglect.
So we just left the feedlot and we picked up the 2 horses. We're heading over to the foster lot now, where we're going to pick up 4 more mares.
The ladies successfully picked up all the horses that were bound for slaughter. And it's a job well done for a team that puts so much time and effort into saving these otherwise doomed horses.
So we just left the foster facility where we picked up 4 more horses that are going to the sanctuary, so that makes a total of 6. We've got about a 4.5-hour drive, and we're trying to get there as quickly as we can without breaking any speed laws. And because we need to get the horses out of the trailer. The temperature's over 100 out here, and they're going to need water and to be able to get out and get away from each other as quick as possible before somebody starts getting cranky back there and picking on the rest of them.
The Dreamcatcher Wild Horse and Burro Sanctuary is a 1,400-acre ranch where rescue horses receive special care and feed. Here, each equine is given the room it needs to just be a horse. Dreamcatcher is committed to creating a safe and enriching sanctuary for victimized wild and domestic horses, and to fostering a new way of thinking about the role these animals play in society.
We've got about 220 horses here. Of that 220, we have 125 wild horses, and the rest are domestic horses.
It is here that the ladies finish their long day, and where the newly rescued horses will live out the rest of their lives.
Not every horse is suitable to be in someone's backyard or ranch, and we were very happy to be able to give these horses back their freedom.
I remember feeling that it was really one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen.
It was really cool. I mean, we don't get to see that very often. We don't get to release horses like that very often. So the fact that we could do it was amazing. You know, it was really, really amazing to watch them.
That first hoof print on the land, hearing that horse make that first step onto the land, I'll never forget the sound of that. That, to me, is the sound of freedom.
From the moment their hooves hit the ground that they were elated to be free.
They all looked phenomenal. I mean, they all looked really good and really happy.
1,400 acres of really, really beautiful land, which they will now call their homes for the rest of their lives.
I mean, these horses have plowed our fields. They've taken down the forest to make the farming ground. They've carried our loads, pulled our wagons, they've fought our wars. And they've never meant a day of harm to any of us.
In the United States, horses are an American icon. They're raised to be our companions. They've really taken us through history and helped build our country.
I don't think there ever is an unusable horse. I really don't. You know, let's stop and think about this. This nation, this world was built on horses.
We are at a kind of a turning point. We're a $39 billion a year industry, and we have to find a way to come together and unite.
Our American horses are being bred for misery, and we are literally their only salvation.
It's part of the American tradition. It's part of the West. It's part of our lore. But more than that, there is a unique connection people make with a horse.
If you're a horse owner and you find yourself in a situation where you can no longer afford to keep it, there's so many resources. Just get on the internet.
Education is really key. Education of new and prospective horse owners about responsibilities and responsible horse ownership.
Every individual effort is important. It's not wasted. Whether it's donating $5 or $10 to a rescue effort, or taking some time on the weekend to go down to one of these rescues and volunteer cleaning stalls or something.
So you don't have to be a millionaire to make a contribution. You can make a contribution to your time. Very simple.
I have a lot of volunteers that help me, that save me a lot of money, which means I can actually bring in more horses.
Every wonderful thing that's happened, every horrible thing that's happened started with one person. One person doing something, negative or positive.
It takes one person, and then another, and then another, and then another.
I'm a strong believer that one person can make a difference. Together, we can make a change.
So where are we now? Well, loss of habitat, overbreeding, slaughter for human consumption, cormorant harvesting, neglect, abuse, and abandonment form the real and intolerable fate of our American horse. So now is the time for all Americans to intervene and provide this noble creature the destiny it has earned. As we've seen, the only way change can happen is if everyday people who care, allow themselves to do something about it. The destiny of America's equines lies in our hands.